You don't appreciate nice things like your sister does. Mom said it while holding Grandma's antique jewelry box, the one I'd watched Grandma polish every Sunday morning for 26 years. And then she handed the entire collection to my sister like I wasn't even standing there. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just watched my entire inheritance disappear into my sister's designer handbag while Mom smiled like she'd done something righteous. But what none of them knew was that Grandma had made other arrangements, and the proof was about to walk through the door. Before I tell you what that lawyer said, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And ask yourself, what would you do if the person who raised you erased you from your own family history? My name is Delia. I'm 29 years old, and my grandmother Eleanor was the only person in my family who ever truly saw me. Growing up in our house outside Minneapolis meant growing up in a hierarchy I never chose. My older sister Natalie was the golden child from birth. She had Mom's blonde hair, Dad's sharp cheekbones, and a personality that demanded attention in every room she entered. She was loud where I was quiet, flashy where I was plain, demanding where I asked for nothing. Mom adored her. Dad enabled her. And me? I was the afterthought, the responsible one. The girl who learned early that the best way to survive was to stay out of the way and expect nothing. But Grandma Eleanor saw through all of it. She lived alone in a small Victorian house across town. The house her husband had bought her 50 years ago, filled with antiques and memories and the faint smell of lavender that seemed to live in the walls. Every weekend, while Natalie was at dance recitals or shopping trips with Mom, I rode my bike to Grandma's house. We'd bake together, her hands guiding mine through pie crusts and cookie dough. She'd tell me stories about the old country, about coming to America with nothing, about building a life through patience and persistence. And she'd show me her jewelry. The collection wasn't just valuable. It was sacred. Each piece had a story. The emerald ring her mother had smuggled across the Atlantic sewn into a coat lining. The pearl necklace her husband saved 3 years to buy for their anniversary. The diamond brooch that had been in our family for 4 generations, passed from mother to daughter, grandmother to granddaughter. "This will all be yours someday, Delia," she'd whisper while I tried on the pieces in her bedroom mirror. "Not because you're the oldest or the prettiest. Because you're the one who understands what these mean." I believed her. I held on to that promise like a lifeline through every birthday where Natalie got more presents, every Christmas where my gifts were practical while hers were extravagant, every family dinner where Mom's eyes lit up for my sister and dimmed for me. Grandma saw me. Grandma valued me. Grandma promised. Then, 8 months ago, Grandma Eleanor passed away. It happened quietly, the way she'd lived. She went to sleep one night and simply didn't wake up. The doctors said it was peaceful. I wasn't there. None of us were. And that guilt still sits heavy in my chest every single day. The funeral was beautiful. Half of Minneapolis seemed to show up. Grandma had touched so many lives with her kindness, her generosity, her quiet wisdom. I sat in the front row between my parents and watched strangers cry over a woman they'd known less than I had. Natalie showed up late. Designer black dress, sunglasses indoors, tissue she never actually used. She played the grieving granddaughter perfectly for the cameras, then spent the reception on her phone. After the service, the question came up immediately. The jewelry. Mom appointed herself executor of Grandma's affairs even though, as far as I knew, no official had been filed with any attorney. She swept into Grandma's house like a general claiming conquered territory. "We need to sort through Mother's things," she announced. "Decide what goes where." I asked about the will. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Mother was old-fashioned. She didn't believe in lawyers and paperwork. She told me verbally what she wanted, and I'm honoring her wishes. Verbally. No documentation. No witnesses. Just Mom's word against a dead woman's silence. I should have fought harder. I should have demanded proof. But I was drowning in grief, barely sleeping, struggling to function. And some part of me still believed Mom would do the right thing. Some foolish, childish part of me still hoped she'd finally see me. 3 weeks later, she gathered the family at her house. Natalie was already there when I arrived, sitting at the dining room table with a glass of wine and a satisfied smile that made my stomach turn. On the table sat Grandma's jewelry box. Mom stood beside it like a game show host about to reveal a prize. She opened the lid slowly, reverently, and I caught my breath at the sight of those familiar pieces glinting under the chandelier light. The emerald ring, the pearl necklace, the diamond brooch. Everything Grandma had promised me. "I've thought long and hard about this," Mom began. Mother would have wanted these pieces to go to someone who truly appreciates them. Someone who understands elegance and refinement. My heart started beating faster. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe Mom had finally decided to honor Grandma's real wishes. Then she turned to Natalie. "These are yours now, sweetheart." The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. Couldn't do anything but watch as my sister's eyes lit up with greedy delight. "Mom," I finally managed. "Grandma promised those to me. She told me for years." "Delia, please." Mom's voice was sharp with impatience. "You don't appreciate nice things like your sister does. You'd probably lose them or let them tarnish in a drawer somewhere. Natalie will actually wear them. She'll show them off. That's what Mother would have wanted." "That's not true," Grandma specifically said. "I was her daughter," Mom interrupted coldly. "I knew her better than you did. These are my decision to make, and I've made it." Natalie was already reaching for the jewelry box, pulling out the emerald ring and sliding it onto her finger like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. "It's gorgeous," she breathed. "Thanks, Mom. I always knew Grandma had good taste." I looked at my father. He stared at the floor, saying nothing. The same nothing he'd said my entire life whenever Mom steamrolled over me. I could have screamed. I could have cried. I could have begged. Instead, I said nothing. I stood up slowly, grabbed my purse, and walked out the door. Behind me, I heard Natalie laughing as she tried on the pearl necklace. I heard Mom saying something about ungrateful children. I drove home in silence, tears streaming down my face, wondering how I'd been so stupid. Wondering why I'd ever believed that promises meant anything in a family like mine. But here's the thing about grief. It eventually fades enough for anger to take its place. And anger made me start asking questions. A week after that dinner, I went back to Grandma's house. Mom had already started clearing it out, donating furniture and boxing up memories like they were clutter. But I wasn't there for furniture. I was looking for paperwork. Grandma was old-fashioned, yes. But she was also careful. Meticulous. She kept records of everything. There had to be something somewhere that documented her real wishes. I found it in the attic, in a fireproof safe hidden behind boxes of Christmas decorations. The key was taped to the bottom of her nightstand drawer, exactly where she'd told me it would be years ago when I was 15 and she'd said, "If anything ever happens to me, Delia, check the attic." I'd forgotten until that moment. Grief had buried it. But standing in that dusty attic, I remembered everything. Inside the safe was a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside the envelope was a letter and a business card. The letter was in Grandma's handwriting. "My dearest Delia, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you these things myself. I know your mother. I know what she'll try to do. That's why I made arrangements years ago to protect what's rightfully yours. Contact the lawyer on this card. He has everything you need. Don't let them take what I promised you. I love you more than you know. Always, Grandma Eleanor." The business card belonged to Harold Zimmerman, attorney at law. I called him the next morning. "I've been waiting for your call, Ms. Delia," he said warmly. "Your grandmother told me you'd reach out eventually. She was a very smart woman." What he told me over the next hour made me dizzy. Grandma had created a legal trust 7 years ago. The jewelry collection wasn't just an heirloom. It had been professionally appraised and placed in a protected trust with me as the sole beneficiary. There were photographs, documentation, insurance records. Everything was legally mine the moment Grandma passed away. Mom had no authority to give away anything. What she'd done wasn't just unfair. It was illegal. "What do you want to do?" Mr. Zimmerman asked. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "I want to wait," I said. "The family reunion is in 2 weeks. I want everyone there when the truth comes out." He understood immediately. "Your grandmother said you had her spine. I'll prepare the documents." The family reunion was at my parents' house. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone gathered for the annual summer barbecue. Natalie arrived wearing Grandma's emerald ring and pearl necklace together, making sure everyone noticed, collecting compliments like trophies. Mom gave me Grandma's whole collection, she told anyone who would listen. She knew I'd appreciate them properly. Mom beamed beside her, basking in reflected glory. I sat quietly in the corner, watching the clock. Waiting. At exactly 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. Mom answered it. A man in a gray suit stood on the porch, briefcase in hand. "Can I help you?" Mom asked. "I'm looking for the family of Eleanor Whitmore," he said politely. "Is there a Margaret present?" Mom's face flickered with confusion. "I'm Margaret. Eleanor was my mother." The man smiled. Not a warm smile. A professional one. I'm Harold Zimmerman, attorney at law. I have a court order I need to serve. The room went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward the door. Mom's voice wavered. A court order? For what? Mr. Zimmerman stepped inside and opened his briefcase. It has come to my attention that items belonging to a protected trust have been illegally distributed without authorization. Specifically, a jewelry collection appraised at approximately $340,000. $340,000. I heard Natalie gasp behind me. Heard the emerald ring suddenly become very heavy on her finger. Mom sputtered. That's impossible. There was no trust. Mother didn't believe in. Mrs. Margaret, I personally helped Eleanor establish this trust 7 years ago. I have all the documentation here, including her signed wishes and a detailed inventory of every piece. He pulled out a thick folder. The sole beneficiary is her granddaughter, Delia. Every head in the room turned to me. I stood up slowly and walked toward the lawyer, my heart pounding but my face calm. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman, I said quietly. Mom's face went white. Delia, you knew about this? You've been planning. I've been honoring Grandma's wishes, I interrupted. The same wishes you decided to ignore because you thought I wouldn't appreciate nice things. Natalie stumbled forward, already pulling off the ring. I didn't know. Mom told me there was no will, she said. What your mother said doesn't matter, Mr. Zimmerman cut in. What matters is the legal documentation. Ms. Natalie, I'll need you to surrender all items from the collection today. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges for possession of stolen property. Stolen property. The words hung in the air like a verdict. Mom collapsed into a chair. Dad stood frozen by the barbecue, spatula still in hand. My aunts and uncles exchanged horrified glances. Natalie's hands shook as she unclasped the pearl necklace. Delia, please. I didn't know. You have to believe me. I believe you didn't know, I said calmly. But you also didn't ask. You didn't question why Grandma would leave everything to you when you barely visited her. You just took what Mom offered and never wondered if it was right. Natalie had no response. She handed over the jewelry piece by piece, tears ruining her perfect makeup. Mom found her voice again, shrill and desperate. This is ridiculous. Mother would never cut me out like this. I'm her daughter. I deserve. You deserve nothing, I said, and the coldness in my own voice surprised me. Grandma knew exactly who you were, Mom. She knew you'd try to take what wasn't yours. That's why she protected me. Because she knew you never would. The reunion ended early. People made excuses and left, unable to look my mother in the eye. By evening, only my immediate family remained, sitting in shell-shocked silence. Mr. Zimmerman handed me the jewelry box before he left. Your grandmother chose well, he said softly. She'd be proud of you today. I drove home with the box on my passenger seat, Grandma's emerald ring on my finger where it belonged. In the weeks that followed, Mom tried calling. Dozens of times. The voicemails ranged from furious to pleading to desperate. I didn't respond to any of them. Natalie sent a long text apologizing, blaming Mom, trying to rebuild a bridge she'd never bothered to maintain. I read it once and deleted it. Dad sent nothing. Silence as always. His specialty. I kept the jewelry in a safety deposit box for the first month, too overwhelmed to even look at it. But eventually I started wearing pieces. The emerald ring to work. The pearl necklace to dinner with friends. The diamond brooch to a charity event where 3 people asked about its history, and I got to tell Grandma's story to strangers who actually appreciated it. Last month, I visited Grandma's grave for the first time since the funeral. I wore every piece she'd left me, letting the afternoon sun catch the gemstones. I found the safe, I whispered. I called the lawyer. I didn't let them win. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and for just a moment, I swear I smelled lavender. Some people might say I should reconcile with my family, that holding on to anger only hurts myself. Maybe they're right. Maybe someday I'll be ready. But not yet. For now, I'm building a life where people value me for who I am, not what I can give them. Where promises mean something. Where the people who see me actually see me. Grandma taught me that I deserved that. And I'm finally starting to believe her. If you've ever been the invisible one, the one whose promises got broken, the one who had to fight for what was rightfully yours, I want you to hear this. Don't give up. Document everything. Find the people who truly see you. And when the moment comes to reveal the truth, stand tall. The right people always leave receipts. If this story hit home, share yours in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. The next story might be the one you needed to hear.